The power supply unit, or PSU in short, is usually a component that isn't paid a lot of attention as we try to focus on CPU, graphics card, motherboard, RAM memory, among others, and unfortunately this one comes at last in most cases. But we should pay more attention as it's the one responsible for transforming the electricity from your house into something more useful for all the components in the computer. For this reason, I'm going to be doing a review of the Corsair PSU, the RM850x. First, we're going to be doing an unboxing to check out what comes inside the box. Second, check on the characteristics of the PSU. And finally, who is the power supply aimed to? Who really needs a power supply of these characteristics? We're going to be answering all of these questions in this video, so let's go on with it.
Let's look at what we have inside the box, which is really well packed to tell the truth. First, we have the manual, the cable that goes from the wall socket to the PSU, a bag of zip ties, and a Corsair sticker. Taking that aside, we have a bag that contains all the power cables. It is a really nice detail that they come packed in a bag instead of having them just thrown inside the box. Inside the bag we have one 24-pin ATX cable, two 4+4-pin EPS12 cable, three 6+2-pin PCIe cable for graphics card, three SATA power cables, one Molex cable, and one floppy drive cable. Finally, we have the big star of this review, the power supply itself. It comes in a nice synthetic cloth pouch, which is of much better quality than the one used for the backstop for the cables. After taking the cloth, we see the product. It maintains a gray and black profile, avoiding any vibrant colors, which may or may not be a good point for some people. I really like it, as the use of neutral colors helps to fit in with different color patterns that I may employ for my rig. We see all the connectors, and a small sticker that reminds us that this is a silent operation PSU, which we will talk about it on the next part. Now let's take a look at the characteristics of the Corsair RM850x. Corsair has a whole gamut of power supplies, and the RM line is a mid-range PSU that have a main characteristic of having silent operation. First, it has an 80+ gold certification, which indicates that it has a minimum of 87% electric efficiency. It also has 100% Japanese capacitors, which are well recognized for their better quality compared to other capacitors. Another aspect that is going to attract a lot of people who want to build their own rig is that it is completely modular, which helps a lot in maintaining order inside a PC. The previous PSU that I had wasn't modular, and I had a whole bunch of cables that I didn't use thrown inside the case. A modular power supply allows only to use the necessary cables. The remaining ones can be stored inside the box. And speaking of cables, well, they're sleeved and completely black, which gives a better look to the PC if you have a side window. Previous power supplies and even some modern low-cost units have different colored cables, red, yellow, brown, and a bunch more, which didn't help in maintaining a color pattern inside the rig. Black cables may help in this situation. It is worth pointing out that not all cables are sleeved. Only the 24-pin, the 4+4 EPS, and the 6+2 PCIe cables. They are also not individually sleeved, so they might be a little bit bulky and difficult to fit in some places. Finally, their 0 RPM capability allows the power supply to completely turn off its fan when the power draw isn't that big, which really helps reduce the noise the computer makes when browsing the internet or doing other light tasks.
So, we've seen what it's inside in our unboxing, and we have also taken a look at the characteristics. So, who is this aimed for? Who would actually need or want to buy a PSU like this one? Well, if you just use Office or do some light gaming, this is definitely not the product for you. Even if you do some extensive gaming, you have your GTX 1070 Ti or even a 1080, you probably don't need a power supply like this one. A gaming rig usually uses around 500 and 650 watts of power, so buying an 850 watt power supply isn't that much recommended. I just won't be using all the power that it can provide. You can go for a less expensive but more reasonable power supply, for instance a 650 watt or even a 700 watt power supply, and that will be okay and you'll be perfectly good to go. This power supply is aimed to people who have multiple GPUs or want to do overclock, and even to both of them at the same time, which is what I'm trying to attempt to. I have a Ryzen 7 2700X and I would like to do some overclocking and also have the capabilities of doing tests of, SLI or Crossfire further down the line. So I could just add another GPU to my motherboard and I won't have to, buy a new power supply just to do a couple of tests. So this power supply would be excellent for my use case.
Well, I completely forgot to record this part of the video in English, so I'll add it here. The 0 RPM function also makes it a really good choice for those looking to build a completely silent PC. However, if you still aren't going to use all of the watts that this power supply provides, it's better to look for other Corsair RM line power supplies that may be more fitting for your use case.
Well, I did encounter a rather big problem with this PSU, but it was solved and I will explain about it later. But first, some things to take into consideration when getting a new power supply, and to avoid some of the mistakes I made. First, I placed the PSU as it was perfectly fine. I plugged all the cables, I ordered them, I did some cable management, used some zip ties. Everything was installed as if the power supply was excellent. And then when I pressed the on switch, this happened. That's an electrical sound, and it sounded way across the room. It was really loud, and that's a sound that no power supply should make. Specifically because it didn't make the sound when the power supply was, when the computer was on, only when the power supply was on standby. So I went back to the store and went to test it, to tell them that I wanted a replacement. And they did a test inside the store with a small computer, one that had a regular CPU and had no graphics cards. The only thing it had is the motherboard and a hard disk drive. And when they tested it, it made no sound. It was, completely clean, like it should normally work. So I went and sent them the video where I was showing them that it was sounding with my system. So they told me, okay, bring your system with us. We're gonna check it with, the whole requirements of your computer. And I had to take my computer over there. They plugged all the cables, they turned the on switch of the power supply without turning on the PC. And it started again. It had that horrible electric noise. But it's important to test the power supply when you're getting it new. Check everything, plug all the cables. If you're using 2 GPUs, plug those PCI cables inside. If your motherboard requires, CPU power, also plug all of them, hard disk drives, anything, so you can test the the PSU in all of its use. And that concludes our review of the RM850X. There's also the I version instead of the X, which allows to use Corsair Link to monitor the PSU from inside the computer. Might be more aimed for people who want to take a deeper look into the use of watts and how is the condition of the power supply, especially for overclockers probably. But anyways, hope you like this video. It is the second one I've made. Hopefully I will also make a video about how to choose a PSU. There's plenty of them, the amount of watts, what 80 plus means, and different variables that you might take into consideration. But hopefully it will come out soon. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Hasta luego.